I think it's emotional, and it's tricky for them. I mean, if someone made a movie about your life when you were in your like early to mid 20s, I had an actor once tell me that the first time they watch a movie that they're in, all they look at is their hair. The second time they watch their performance, and the third time they watch the movie. So I wonder if you're watching a movie about you, what is that progression? At what point can you actually watch the movie? Because you're not just watching the actor going, is that how I sound? Yeah.
I meant to ask you yesterday. So when I was watching the film for the first time, what struck me was like this passing of the guard, because you had Milton Berle, and then you had these real just Gonzo type actors and players, and then it occurred to me, I'm watching the film, and I meant to ask you this yesterday. Did Milton Berle really do that? If you know what I mean.
Yeah, and to many people, because over my life I've had many people tell me about Milton Berle pulling out his penis. You know Jeff Ross is the roast master, the comedian, is all the roast battles and stuff. He came to our premiere the other night, and the next day he's telling me, he's like, "Oh man, love the film. Oh man, Milton, he pulled his dick out in front of me."
Oh, Jesus.
He goes, "I didn't get Me Too'd, I got Me 22'd. Oh my God, it was big."
I guess that's how you really made it.
I'll give you a fun fact about the movie. As you can imagine, it's there's not a lot of visual effects in this film. In fact, there's almost none. Everything in the control room, it was all done live. We were either live broadcasting to screens or live shooting from cameras into screens. So all the normal things that might be visual effects are not. There's two visual effects in this film. One are the clocks, because we found that audiences were so keenly aware of what time it was that if a person said it's 10:51 and the clock said 10:53, they would notice. Wow. So we would sometimes digitally move the minute hand on our clocks by just 2 or 3 minutes. And the other one was recoloring the penis so that it matched JK's skin. So there's an artist out there, probably went to CalArts, worked on an Avatar movie or two, and had a week where she just sat there detailing, adding the shine, making sure that it looked right. Not too shiny!
Wow, that's a hell of a thing to put on your body. I'm curious with the way that the film was shot, the immersive way, and then the long takes and everything. What were the biggest challenges for you, all of you really, as actors, to work in this way? And what made Jason just such a great actor's director that you all just did your best work?
That's a good question. The biggest challenges, I guess, we all had so much to pull from when we're watching. I mean, our own, I know for me, watching the first couple episodes of SNL, I'm like, okay, I want to make sure that I tap into this that Jane did, and this character that Jane did, and just making sure that I find the right moments to drop those in, and knowing that on that big wonder that we had kind of at the beginning when we first opened the elevator doors, trying to figure out okay, I'm sitting on this desk, but it's my choice. What am I going to do with this moment, and what do I want audiences to hear and to see that's going to go, oh, I remember that from the first episode, because I really wanted that. And so, I chose to have her going over the lines of victims of shark bite, because it was just,
that's awesome.
Right? Because I was like, oh, that's a funny sketch, and I wanted to make sure that some of those pieces were thrown in there wherever I could, and so just having to fine tune when I did that was important.
What about for you, Nicholas? What are the challenges for you?
Probably the same thing. I was trying to sneak in would you like my pepper? and
It's
my pepper. And Jason came up to me maybe 2 takes into that long one, and I was just like, what the fuck are you doing? I think that was challenging. You get so immersed that you're like, let me try something in this take. That's crazy. And it's again toning it down to its 90 minutes before the first SNL and what that means, as opposed to the gigantic footprint that these people left. And no. These are real human beings in a real backstage, and they're being set up to fail, and they're all underdogs and all unknown. How does that feel? And so that was constantly. Yeah.
What about Gabriel for you, especially because, you know, Lord is everywhere? What were the acting challenges for you?
I think the biggest challenge was I was so afraid of getting Lorne right that in the first couple weeks, I was very rigid. I didn't totally, I wasn't as loose. I think I was doing so much of the same thing, take after take, and how his mannerisms down, and I needed to be exactly. And Jason came up to me and he's like, I just want you to play and be malleable, and I really want more of you in this character. And as soon as we had that conversation, I really felt this weight lift off of me, and I just was able to really be way more present than I think I've been in any set I've ever been on. And I think I was able to collaborate with the actors around me more and take Jason's direction better, and I think it made me a better actor, and I really believe that it is one of the most valuable lessons in my creative life that I've ever had to learn. And so I think getting over that was probably the most challenging, but then once I did, it was like,
Can I just, we had a group chat of you know, the actors, and every now and then there would be this text from Gabe to all of us just going, hey guys, this is the best project I've ever worked on, and I'm so happy about it. Thank you so much, I love you guys so much. Okay, I'm going to bed now. Like, it's the sweetest thing, yeah.
If I could speak to what Gabe said, I had dinner with Guillermo del Toro a couple years ago, and I was talking to him about, it's cool.
You dropped that.
as one does.
Right.
And I was talking to him about that exact thing, about control. Because as a director, I'm obsessed, obviously, with control. Every director is. And in the same way that you, I think, we're approaching Lorne at the top. And he said to me, you know, and he had talked about some of his earlier work where he was really tight and he was trying to hold on to control, and how he learned to let go. And he said, you know, when you're tight, you only have yourself. But when you're supple, you have the universe.
Ooh.
And that's one of the best lessons of directing I've ever gotten.
Wow.
And that's what I remember wanting for you, and what you got. And that's what's so extraordinary about your performance is, you know, everyone's playing in this world. You know, we're building this big immersive experience where everyone's playing around in it, and there's choreography, but there's a lot of freedom within the choreography as well. But at the end of the day, we're following Gabe the entire time.
Yep.
We're following Gabe, we're following his reactions, we're over his shoulder. He has to carry it the entire time. And the tension is his tension. And the dream of his, whether or not it's going to succeed, is his dream. And you leaned in, and you trusted me, you trusted everyone else. And as a result, the movie sings.
I'm curious, you know, Jason, you know, most of your films, even after on the air, still retain sort of an indie feel to them, like young adult Tully, you know, feel like Juno and you know, Thank You for Smoking. But with this movie, it does feel indie in a way. It feels, certainly because it's shot on 16mm.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of keeping that 90-minute approach, like, how did you work with your editor to make sure that you hit that? What did you have to lose to make that mark?
Honestly, my writing partner and I, Gil and I, worked so diligently to make this a movie that took place over 90 consecutive minutes that it was more structured than anything we'd ever written, and we did so much work that by the time we sat down to write the actual script, we wrote it in 3 days because we had already figured out every beat and almost every line of dialogue. It was just in a Google Doc, and then it was almost like a transfer process to get it into a final draft. But it was already worked out minute by minute, and it was so much of that kind of, how do we make sure we're weaving everyone's storyline into every scene so that somehow you're tracking not only the main characters, but even people you don't even know the names of. There's like people you probably, you know, got a feel for of the movie, like the guy who does the cue cards. And you're like, you start tracking that guy, and he kind of has a bit of a story. And so the question is like, how do we make sure we're keeping an eye on them? We had 2 editors, and they each did one thing that was just brilliant. Nate, who I've worked on a few films, he put in the clocks. He was the one who suddenly, I remember the first time I was watching it, he goes, it cut to 9:59, and then it cut to 10, and I was like, oh, that's great. And I was like, you just know at that moment, it's like, oh, the movie just got better. And then Shane, who's also brilliant, who worked on, who just did Deadpool and Wolverine, at one point he did a cut of Lorne, and we were in his head, and we were seeing the things that were in his head, and that was all Shane's idea. And these are the moments where you realize, oh, you think everything happens in the writing, you think everything happens on set, but the writing is still happening in the editing room.
Adding Benny and the Jets to the writer's room.
Ooh, yeah, that was Shane. That was a great idea.
Yeah.
So good.
Oh, we should talk about the music.
Please, yes, the music.